Last week, right? Yeah. What's the celebration? All righty. I got enough to write about advertising. That deadline behind you, I was started that. I was on the road. Like,
There you go. I did see that, you know. We want our stuff by noon. Think it'll happen?
You said you think it'll happen?
Will they give it?
You know, the sad thing is, the only, the tax.
Give you the sign-in sheet, well, just pass it around.
But you know it's not going to anybody. The county city attorney.
We'll turn that
Baker
camera
Daniels,
over.
and I
It's in the back of your head.
you know, $200.
You know how people
Taxpayer on
recognize,
that.
you recognize people. I'm not either.
I hope they resolve it.
I'm not either.
Yeah.
Like we were just here, huh? Yeah.
Well, shall we start? Yeah, everybody ready? We'll wait till we're ready. Coffee machine must be working now.
Out of mine? Yeah.
I think he's making a copy of the agenda. No, I got one.
That's the one I emailed.
All right, we'll get started. We come in there now, sure. We'll open in prayer, and then we'll get started. Dear Heavenly Father, you are the keeper of the stars and also friend of the poorest heart. And we're thankful that you've given us another day to live here on earth, to enjoy the things that you've provided. We know that the air in our lungs is there on account of you. We ask that you be a part of this meeting, that you guide and direct our thoughts and our hearts as we make decisions for the people in Tipton. Help us to work together for the common good so that we will enjoy better lives and grow together as a community. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay. What we're going to do first, I think we're going to move the budget up to the top of the agenda because that's what we advertise. So the budget will be the first agenda item. Any other changes that you can think of before we start? Anybody? Everybody's okay with that? Need a motion?
What's another?
Huh? I said, are there any other additions or no for the agenda? All right, so last week the council met for 2 days and went through the county budget and worked through every department and come up with a budget we feel good with. And so I know there are a couple things that we wanted to talk about. Beth, do we want to discuss those now?
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of talked about umbrella, you talked about influential wages.
On,
And start with
this
on the jailers
jail,
and the
yeah.
wage fees.
right. I emailed everybody, started doing some calculations. When we met, we did not have individual amounts at that time for each jailer, each jail staff person. The proposed raise that we had budgeted was what was requested from the sheriff. And when you look at that, I was able to get a breakdown from the sheriff of each individual. The total that we would need to appropriate for there's 14 jail staff, is $383,101.20. And then in addition to that, we had discussed the potential of creating a line for the jail commander for $500. That would need to be added in. So that would be the correct amount for that general fund item.
We would create a separate line for the jail commander.
That's what I would suggest.
To stay within the guides that we've already set with our budget, would it be prudent to reduce the overtime line to $2,500?
I think-
Increase that jail commander again to $500?
Right, I think that's a good idea. That keeps the,
That way we're staying within
Keeps
the
it
dollars
lower.
we appropriated.
right.
$34 to spare.
Yes, there's just,
Anything else with, Beth mentioned, anything else with the sheriff's department before we? Travel conference?
How much raise does that have?
Want to vote on the raise? Want to vote on this
Oh,
one,
okay.
jail first?
Okay, good. I didn't do a little looking. In the last 10 years, the sheriff's department has totally doubled its budget.
Sheriff
Spending-
and jail.
Sheriff and jail both have doubled in 10 years' time.
a big part, I know a big part of that was going to 14 jailers. Probably 4 years ago, I think there was 4 added at that time.
4
Several.
or 5 years.
That's a big part of
I
it.
think when they came to us with one of those studies.
I think 600 of these guys.
Did you see the email, the spreadsheet?
I just got a glance at it.
I didn't know if you wanted to look at that.
Okay, so the discussion, Denny likes the smaller amount. The thing that Brad worked up was the $1,000 we talked about both in the budget meetings. Any other council members have a feeling?
I'm fine with doing
Okay,
it. Anyway, vote.
I'm good with the $1,000 raise across the board.
you want to put it in the form of a motion,
Sure,
Suzanne?
I'll make a motion that we accept the jailer pay increase of a $1,000 across the board pay raise, and to create a line called jail commander, and to appropriate $500 in that line. On the offset, to reduce the overtime line by 500, therefore not increasing the overall budget that we worked on last week.
I second the motion.
All right, thank you for that. Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Now we want to talk a little bit about the travel conference.
That's fine.
What we did originally was, with all the travel and conference, similar to the telephone that we did last year, the year before, was to bring it all into one. Our intention was to put it in the Board of Commissioners, all of that, so that people who needed training throughout the year, they would just go to the commissioners to get that approved, but we're changing our minds, I think.
After some discussion, a little later after that was done, we were looking at the other funds outside of the general fund, and those we cannot reduce and put them anywhere else. We can't move them over to the general fund to the commissioners for them to handle the same way as they would departments within the general fund. So that's, I feel like we're not being fair to the departments within the general fund. My request or my would be that we reallocate those monies back to those funds, to those departments. And then if the council so chooses, we write a resolution, because one of our concerns was that that money was getting transferred out and being used in other areas, or other areas was getting transferred in. So we might have appropriated, let's say, $500 for travel in one department, but by the time they move money around, we've spent $1,500. And if it's within that same series, we don't have any jurisdiction. I mean, they don't have to come back to the council for that. But if we so write a resolution requiring that as part of the stipulation with that line, then they would have to. So that way we still kind of keep a little control of what we've appropriated in bounds, but yet we're not micromanaging them as to what they can spend it, as to what their, conferences and stuff. Plus, my feeling is that I don't think the commissioners probably want to deal with that type of item. They've got enough on their plate. So that's my thought.
I think that's a good idea.
Well, I'm sorry, I missed that part when this was determined during our budget time. And I don't know what that dollar amount was that was put into the. 14.
Yes.
But the actual calculation was $13,070.
Okay, so we'll be over. We're going those back.
And if we want, we can go through and I can department by department and just announce what their travel and conference request was.
Suzanne, the 13, how much?
It was $13,070.
That was the request, or that was what
That
was
was the
spent?
total of the general fund travel and conference.
What was requested for next year?
So you want to go through and mention those in each department, the amounts? We need
If
to
you
do that
think it
now?
would be appropriate,
Yeah,
That's fine.
okay.
If you don't want to do it.
okay, we start, and this only applies to the general fund, with the clerk of the court. The travel conference and registration amount was $1,200. The auditor, 2,000. The treasurer, 1,000. The recorder, 700. The sheriff, 5,000. Surveyor, 900. Coroner, 100. The assessor had $0 in the general fund budget for travel. Prosecuting attorney had 0. Extension education, 1,000. Veteran service, 250. $500. County Election Board, 500. Drainage Board, 500. $600 in the Commissioner's budget. $350 in the Planning Commission budget.
Forty more pages.
3,000 in the Circuit Court budget. $500 in Communications budget. $300 in the Emergency Management budget. The last budget being Title 40, $1,500.
You want to put that in form of a motion?
I'll make a motion to reallocate the travel appropriations back into the individual general fund locations.
Okay, thank you, Madonna. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Special thank you to Beth and Suzanne for staying after with Greg, and they really know this budget stuff really, really well, and we would probably be here a couple extra days if that happened for them, so thank you, Barb. Anything else pertaining to the budget? We just need that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, sir. Suzanne's got one. Oh, yeah, there is one more.
Yes. I'm just thinking about how we had placed $15,000 in the IT budget for outside services, professional outside services, without even having really discussed what we would like to have happen with the Board of Commissioners, and they would be the ones to make those decisions. I thought it might be better to take the $15,000 and place it in the general fund. It would be the only item in location 061, which is the county council budget. The rest of the county council budget has been moved over into CAGIT, so this would be the only item placed in the county council budget. Talk to the commissioners about our proposed solutions or ideas, and if they think it's a good idea, then we have funding available for them. Just thought it would be a more appropriate place for now and to leave it there in the county council budget. Because it's our hopes that it would be used for the professional services, the backup services for our IT department.
Anybody comments about that?
I think it's a good move. It accomplishes what we talked about in probably a more clear way.
We want to form that into a motion. or unless there's any discussion, any more discussion? Everybody know what we're doing? Okay. One more, you got one more?
Okay, I'll make a motion to transfer the appropriation the council placed in the IT budget within the general fund of $15,000 in professional outside services into, keeping it into the general fund, but placing it in location 61, which is the county council budget, 15,000.
Second, thank you, Beth. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Suzanne, these travel conference, did you say it was 13,700?
70. What we
13,070?
13,070 is what we added up.
Okay, and then those figures that you just cited, should those add up to that?
They don't?
No, not close.
Okay.
So I didn't know if that would affect
What
your.
did you get your calculation? What was your calculation? Well, we
Like-
didn't really, in our motion, we didn't specify
Okay.
an amount.
Yeah, I didn't know if it would matter or
But
not.
when we set the 14,000, we were setting it higher than what, because what we did was we just filtered on that account number and came up with that $14,000 number. And so we set it at 14 so that there would definitely be enough.
I think the 1370 is what was spent, not what was asked for,
Oh,
I think.
I think
That's
you're
right.
right.
That
Yeah,
was what they
okay.
asked for was 19.
Okay, that's right. That's right, okay.
Yeah, this adds up to
19.
Okay, so
These
it's actually
allocations.
the 14.
We based our appropriation on prior spending.
Well, we're still
What
okay
did
with
you
that.
calculate the total to be?
It is 19,900.
All right. Anything else with the budget? We want to, we have everything else in place, Beth, to go ahead and accept the budget?
I think if we are going to go back and allocate this in, and the difference with the 14, so that additional 5,000, so we'll have to apply to our line 1, our 16-line statement, thus reducing our cash that much, so we can keep our levy exactly the way we planned. Because we know we're well within that boundary, so I say we make those adjustments and apply it. Capital operating.
I have a for you. Well, I'd asked for $5,000 in my court time in the clerk's office budget, and for what I understand, it was cut down to 4,000. I would like to request that it be 5,000. I could very well ask for an extra employee. My girls can't even take a vacation without coming back to having their desks, piled full of files. We have 2,000 plus pending cases in the court right now. And they come across the desk, across the girl's desk, and they have to process those. You know, they're racking up comp hours, you know, and eventually, you know, that would have to be paid out. I would like for them to be able to go home.
Let's,
Like,
Debbie, if you don't mind, we'll, let's, we work 2 days on that, if the council feels this way. And just, everyone will know that, and then if you need additional appropriation, you might just come back and ask for it. Since we did work for a couple days on that.
well, you know, I heard other people, you know, had asked for a full-time employee, but instead of that, they got 3,000. You know, we have a large caseload up there, and my girls work solid. No one has ever come up and actually seen what we do. I would invite you to come up and actually sit for an hour or two in our office and just see what goes on.
And we know that, we know, and most of us know, just by going through the numbers, that the need is there in all the offices. But it might be just, at this time, it might be more appropriate just to come back to appropriation. Like I said, I think we worked 2 days, and members feel that way, but we can discuss this all night, but it's, that's an amount that we additional appropriate pretty regularly.
So, I mean, I can go ahead and work someone, and, you know, I mean, if I work them and I need the extra, am I going to be guaranteed to get it?
Not for sure. I mean, lots of people ask for lots of extra time, employees and
You know,
everything.
how much extra time how much part-time does the auditor's office have? How much part-time, you know, do other offices have? How much extra did they get? I asked for $2,000 more in my clerk's budget, for a grand total of $5,000.
Unless there's no objection, I would just, we'll just keep the numbers the way they are and just come back for additional appropriation. I don't probably, I mean, we did go through the numbers, and it is difficult. I mean, to make the argument that other offices, really, it's just your office that you're concerned about,
Yes,
and what other offices are.
we can't.
So, but we do
And
that, we
I'm
do this all the
very
time.
frugal with my budget.
Oh, we know.
I've never asked for an additional appropriation,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, next year might be your first time. Anybody else got anything with the budget? Do we want to make a motion? Okay.
What kind of question?
Sure.
Did you guys grant a raise to the county employees other than the jailers? The jailer got 1,000, right? So what did the other employees?
It was around 600.
For full-time.
Full-time, did part-time get anything?
Officers, the officers had 1,000, jailers 1,000. The other full-time got 600, and then there were a few of the part-times that are considered part-time, but they work almost full-time hours, got
I'm sorry,
300.
300. What about elected officials?
Well, elected officials, all the elected officials make the same. First deputies make the same, second deputies make the same, and outside of that $600 raise that was fairly standard,
Right.
there were several employees that it was either more or less to keep them in line.
Yeah.
There seemed to be a lot of focus on trying to keep department heads, certain department heads and employees in line with the first and second deputy pay and elected official pay. So there was some focus on trying to do that as well. And there were several employees that were affected, some more, some less.
Still waiting for a figure. No pressure, Greg.
No.
Proposed budget estimate for the incoming year is $4,198,877, with a levy of $2,844,381 for the general fund.
Scott, can you say that again?
Okay, the
Budget was $4,198,877, and the levy, $2,844,381.
Yes. It can, but not change those two figures.
This is with,
This is the previous numbers. So on line one, you'll change to the budget estimate. Line one is $4,198,877. Line 11 is the operating balance that will be changed to $1,138,682.
because when you look at the numbers, and all the departments are a little different when you go across the board. But I know that I was pretty critical of a department in 12 that spent a lot of part-time money in the first half of the year, and then really felt like we were kind of stuck on trying to do some part-time for the second half. So if the clerk is going to try to do any planning on how to utilize a part-time individual, $4,000 versus $5,000 is a big difference for that office for the year on hours. So I would suggest that she come back early in 13 to that council, and with some type of information that might be different for them to look at, because if she spent all $4,000 in the first 6, 7, 8 months, then she's out. And so for her planning purposes, that's what I would suggest, that you need to come back early in 13 and let the council see, and so if you need to work on that.
You know, I guess, the thing is my full-time employees are racking up comp hours, having to work hours and hours and hours after taking a vacation. Do you all realize how much that's gonna cost the county eventually down the road when they have to pay that out? I mean,
Well, the comp hours, we had a special meeting on that, and I've had several discussions, both in council and outside, that as a human resource issue, that is something the commissioners have to get defined and have to get under control as far as how they're gained and how they're spent. And so, you know, you might end up with a lot of comp hours that end up getting paid out at some time, and that's a funding issue.
right.
But the commissioners hold the policy on how that works, and they're not inclined to do anything with it, although it was looked at in 12. So that's about as good as it's going to get right now.
Yeah, just a part-time employee to try to pick up some of that, you know, some of the work, I mean, to help them. They would like to go home 4:30, you know, at the earliest, you know, for the most part, we never get out of there at 4 o'clock. You know, half the time we're there till 4:35, you know.
Well, and you're right, Debbie, we do spend, it is a costly item, as Brad mentioned. In January, you'll see a huge, tens of thousands of dollars being paid out for the prior year for comp time, and it's a problem. And this board really, like Brad said, doesn't have much to do with that. If the commissioners aren't bold enough to put a policy in place, the county will continue to lose thousands of dollars each year because that policy is not in place.
And I mean, they have to, because they have to work it.
Right.
I mean, there's no choice for them.
Right.
To get those files processed. I mean, the court depends on
Right.
it.
Let's move on, thank you. And I think Brad has some good advice for you. Greg, is this all we need, Beth, for the budget? Do we have enough to make a motion to approve the budget?
If you want to do the general fund, you want to do it all as a whole.
Do it all as a whole. Just report the budget and the levy, and then we could, make a motion to accept tax levy funds, and then we have, funds outside that are independently funded that also need to be approved.
Somebody want to make a motion on the general fund and all together?
Or would you like me to just go through the 5 tax levy funds and just report
Want to put all those at once?
Sure.
our budget estimates for each one and the levy associated with each one of those funds?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay. Just for the public, our growth quotient was 2.8%. Our total levy for tax levy funds, our normal maximum levy is $3,225,438. That is what we have to work with. Now, the state will probably adjust that up or down a bit when they work our budgets, but that is what we have to work with for our budgets. The general fund budget, $4,198,877. A levy in the amount of $2,844,381. estimate budgets, $181,100. The levy, which is set by the state, $82,725. The health department budget, $167,144. The levy, $103,083. The CCD funds, budget, $206,216. But the levy, $137,444. That placed us at our maximum looking levy, or a normal maximum of $3,225,439. When you add in the CCD, which is outside the normal maximum levy, and the financial institutions tax, mental health and disabilities are included in the general fund, which are normally taken out by the state and dropped in to calculate our maximum working levy, which is $3,497,365. I make a motion that we accept and approve the budget estimates on these 5 tax levy funds and the associated levies.
Thank you, Suzanne. Is there a second? Thank you, Beth. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. You see why we need her? Anything else with the budget? If not, we'll move straight on into we'll have a public hearing, I suppose. We'll go down the agenda like we planned.
Scott, we do need to approve all the other miscellaneous revenue fund budgets. I don't have any of those statements.
So, we didn't introduce, I don't think we introduced any of those, did we?
You
Yeah,
have
we
this?
can move on.
We'll have to revisit.
Those?
Those other funds,
Okay. All right.
the main ones are the tax levy funds.
Okay.
Here.
Okay. We'll move on then. If there's no objection, we'll open up the public hearing for additional appropriations for EMA, Maximus, and Planning Commission. Hot off the presses. We have 3 separate amounts. One is for Greg, what's this first one for? It's not on our agenda. Second.
First is a copy of the advertisement.
Okay.
Second, yes, the second, third pages are the requests for additional appropriation for planning commission and for EMA.
Okay, first one is an additional appropriation for the Plan Commission, requesting $8,000 in additional funds to cover the estimated inspection invoices. Steve gave me a note. You want me to read this, Steve, or you want to explain those? He did some transferring funds, and we don't have any of those sheets, Greg?
They're coming.
Okay. Never mind.
Okay, go down through there.
Steve has transferred some funds to cover this expense. All in all, he's asking to transfer was it $2,700 total?
$2,700 total.
Yeah, those are the papers that are coming around. So his additional appropriation, what he's saying is he really only needs $5,200 this evening instead of the $8,000, right?
So thank you for taking a look at your funds and finding maybe the transfer.
So that's what you have. If you find that from transfer from Steve, you'll see that there's just the one, isn't there, Steve?
One was outside the series for $250, but then $2,450 were within the series.
Okay. Everybody see that? Okay, so we need a motion. Do we need a motion for this one, Beth?
We did vote here.
You know,
We are in public hearing. Okay,
After
Very
we
good.
do your public hearing.
okay. All right. Yeah, is there any public comments on any of these, I guess? The Maximus, the Planning Commission, anybody have any comments? Seeing none. Bob?
On the Maximus, what's the amount on that?
20,000? Is being considered.
Any idea how much the council may eventually spend on that? I mean, do you have an upper limit, or is it open-ended, or what?
That's, 20 is what's being considered this evening. And that's the best estimate from the commissioners that, not sure.
Was this the 20,000 you discussed last month on the rainy day fund?
Right.
Jackie is here.
No? Any other comments? If not, we'll close the public hearing.
I move we close our public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Take one at a time.
Yeah, we'll take them one at a time. First, we'll do the, I'm looking, why does it say EMA on there? Right here it is. This is,
And that's not.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that one first. EMA director is requesting an additional $4,085. Any discussion on that?
I just want to make a note that this is money that they already have. This is not new money. This is hardship money that came from the radio system repairs. And we voted a couple of meetings ago to reallocate these back to the different units, to the fire departments mainly, the sheriff's department. Did they get sheriff's department get it? Coroner, pretty much. Everybody gets a little piece of this, and it is from the radio system. It's not any new money or that we are creating. We had the choice to either keep it in the county general or allocate it back, and we chose to allocate it back to those units.
I move we approve the additional appropriation, $4,085 through EMA.
All right. Second. Thank you, Denny. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Let's go to the Plan Commission. Again, the original request was for $8,000. Steve did some transferring to help us out. The request now is $5,300.
Yeah.
Any discussion on the $5,300? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the additional appropriation in the amount of $5,300 and within that, approve the transfer within the Planning Commission from official records to building and electrical inspections.
Second.
Thank you, Suzanne. Moved in second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And Steve, yes, thank you for
Motion
working your
carries.
budget.
Yeah, no problem.
That helps.
All right, and the third one is the Maximus bill, and we're considering $20,000 to move from rainy day, transfer from rainy day to pay Maximus. Any discussion on that?
Sure.
Sure, Brad?
It's been a month since we talked about this. I know Jackie was here, and I don't know what progress has occurred during the month, but I'm still not in favor of just throwing money at this situation and hoping it's going to get better. I don't think this is the right thing. I think there's other avenues that we could approach. I think we're wasting money, and everybody's afraid that we're not going to have data and we're not going to be able to function, and we're still digging our hole. We're not gaining. I don't know why we do it. If the council, is just so inclined that they want to put big chunks of money out, I would suggest that at least if you're going to do an appropriation, why don't you appropriate a piece of that, see where we're at. The last report that we got that had hours on it, if the progress occurred at the same rate as historically has happened, we're looking at a lot more money than $20,000. So if the council wanted to appropriate 10 and ask for a review, ask for where we at, how's it going, I think that might be more prudent. But just to throw 20,000 out because that's some magic number, I don't agree with that.
I would tend to agree with you with 10. In reviewing what was left out there to be done, there was still the general fund, of course. There was the drainage, there was wheel tax and surtax, and Suzanne has graciously helped Ray with that. So I think we can pull some of that away. Jackie is still going to work on a few months that need allocated, but Suzanne took a big chunk of that. And I did, and she helped me with the spreadsheet, but we can start to do that myself.
I have to get on the spreadsheet.
So, I mean, Suzanne's been great to help him with that.
I'm willing to continue on if he wants me to go back in time, or if he wants me to just continue forward and then train him on how he needs to handle the wheel tax and the lottery monies.
We still have the highway fund and excise tax left that needs to be figured out.
The other issue that I noticed in Jackie's report was, it was very small, but I think this may help in what Brad's saying, is that I noticed that she wrote a resolution, and I know she's done some training, not just for the auditor's office, but other people. And I think that probably falls in the hands of the commissioners to find out what the scope of her work's going to entail. I don't think they even know, to be honest, because she has done other things outside the parameters of just helping our auditor. So I think it's a good step.
But she's made some suggestions, and which Greg has followed, and I think that'll make some a little smoother transition in that office. But I would be inclined to go with 10,000. I think that that'll get us to a point where then, if so, we had looked at, one thing we talked about in our budget meeting was outsourcing our payroll. And if we do that, we would still keep that third deputy. And maybe that's someone that then we can train to on from this point. Jackie maybe can show them how to go back to finding these corrections and how to make them, and then we can move on.
Anybody else have any comments?
I agree with that. And Brad, I would like to go ahead with 10,000.
All right.
Well, I'm really not in favor of 10, so I'm going to be voting no. But I
You
just
took
threw
it that way on
that
that,
out.
you kind of took it that way on that
Yeah.
end of the table.
Okay.
You
All
threw
right.
it out there, so we're biting.
So, is there a motion that somebody would like to suggest?
I make a motion that we approve the additional appropriation out of the rainy day fund for Maximus in the amount of $10,000.
Second.
All right, okay. Suzanne, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Me.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Is that everything in the public hearing items, those additional appropriations?
One thing he handed around to us was one that we tabled last meeting, which
Uh-huh.
was IT. When there's changes, in the commissioner's address.
Here's an extra copy.
Yeah, if you guys want to look at it, maybe. I think it may be a new point down.
No, there's still, the outstanding bills that were paid were the two that were due on July 31st. And what is still owed is for technical services in the amount of $16,876.99. That takes it to 9/15/12.
How much was that again, do you think?
This is to 9/15/12, the Lao bill, and it's ongoing, is $16,876.99. And Ms. Sean Lau told me that they would be helping with property tax distributions and some other things until the end of the year. He estimated that it would be close to 20 for overtime.
We're seeing 16,773 in Lao Technical Services as of September 1, and a potential of 9,000 to cover till the end of the year.
It's, it's hard to predict how much they're going to spend. The last, if yours is 9/1, mine was 9/15/12, and that was 16,876.99.
But we did not advertise for a public hearing for anything in IT.
No, this is just, we tabled this whole thing.
Right.
And that's why I was asking mainly, because some of it may be new now, because I know they made some changes in
Right.
council or in commissioners when they paid some bills. So some of this may not even apply now.
No, it does, well, there were 3 bills for Lao. There was the support systems and for auditor and treasurer, and those were the ones that were due the 31st. Those were the only ones we paid.
But the second item though is the auditor Lao, 7,742. That's already been paid, hasn't it?
Yes.
Web hosting.
The piece that was replacing the web hosting,
Yes.
but that money was transferred. So it really doesn't need to go back to that.
Correct. That one can be, yeah. That one we can cross out. Because that one was paid with we paid some out of our insurance all types, and then I took some from what was remaining in the IT budget. So there still is this one at the top of your sheet
how about the telephone?
Yeah.
You see that?
Well, the telephone, it appears to me that he has said, you see, he says, can transfer on the following line items to go toward any of the above. And then he has $3,481.13 to telephone. And that was already done.
Those men.
Those transfers, the McAfee virus, Tamco lease, hardware soup, fin server, and assessor server, those were already transferred into telephone. So are you reading that like I am, that he's okay with telephone?
That's the way I read it.
Because he says 34812 to telephone will take care of telephone,
Yeah.
cover phone bill?
Or any of the others, then we would need the telephone.
Right, but it was actually transferred already. I looked at the ledger. Those amounts, those four amounts, not the 2025, but the other four blackened amounts have been transferred to telephone.
So the only thing we really need to consider is the top lines,
Correct.
and then we'd have to do a public hearing in November, and we're down to the wire.
Do you need the $7,742?
No, that's been taken.
Just the $9,000?
The see,
No, just, no, the 25,773. But I really do think that's high because,
Well, I have 15,604 was budgeted. The 16,773 is overage, which is due. And then the 9,000, the way I read this is that that's what's needed, 9,000 to cover from now to the end of the year.
right.
That makes up that difference between what was the remaining appropriation and what is needed to pay the bill. Is there appropriation? We really need to know if there's
No.
appropriation.
The appropriate, you want to know if there's an appropriation for lab technical services? Yes, there was, but it was spent on January 3rd. The entire appropriation that you had for 2012 was spent on January 3rd to take care of a overage in 2011. Everything that you had given her for 2012 was gone on January 3rd to pay a bill that was overdue in 2011.
And
That's
see-
why there's nothing in there.
and those bills that we saw in the last meeting that were dated, received in May and due in July, and now here we're going into November to process this money, or we're that far behind. And that's what,
Greg said he just got a bill, he's going to get $25,000.
And
We have blown our technical services out of the water.
right,
We
because,
always had a substantial credit, and now if we just.
well, there was actually, Suzanne, a credit going into 2011.
Exactly.
From 2010, there was a credit. All that was spent, all the appropriation was spent, and all the 2012 appropriation was spent in 2011. For support.
plus 30,000 to fix it, plus 10,000 to fix it. Keep running.
Plus 36,000 in salary to mess it up.
It's bigger than I think you realize.
Horrific.
Spend money that's not working.
Hold the bill.
Hope you go to January 3rd.
Oh, the bill over. Okay.
How much did you spend on IT services in 2011? I mean, you're just getting this bill, 2 years old. 16,000, how much you spent in 2011?
Looks like 30, almost 40,000.
How much you budget?
16.
16, but you spent 24,000 more than what?
We probably hired 2 new staff people for less.
11 and 12,
In yesterday's mail.
and it's for technical support, and it just reads training in Lao, software, related software, staff development and retraining on any software as requested, hardware installation and setup, installation of application software, database software, of other software required, consulting, planning, and required and requested by the appropriate personnel.
Whose staff is getting trained?
I don't know, I mean, that's, I think that needs to be broken out. I know.
Right.
One, hardware, why would we be getting charged anything under agreement with hardware? Hardware installation and setup.
Isn't this an issue for the commissioners?
No, I mean, all you really know is that you're in arrears $16,876.99. The other, the $9,000 is what he's projecting that is going to be spent. That's what this is, that's what this is.
This bill?
Yes, that's
This
what,
bill says it's due 11/11.
well, he's just saying that'll take us to the end of the year.
I don't see anything, no, I don't see anything here at the end of the year what's going to cover, saying that you're not going to get another.
We're so far,
This date's the date was 2/12 and due 11/11.
we're so far behind, they're asking ahead.
So you pay late fees on it?
They got a
I've been
plan.
talking
They
about-
waive.
They waive it.
They waive it. They
They
said
got
if we
a plan.
paid them, they would waive. If we paid them at Commissioner Day, then they would waive.
What do you wanna do?
$2,100.
Anybody?
How much do we need exactly?
At 25. What they got, rain day?
We need 25,000?
No,
60?
no, I'm just saying, your bill right now is $16,876.99. It's up to, but that was dated 9/15, now we're a month later. I don't know if he's done anything in a month. So, it depends on how much Greg's office uses them between now and the end of the year.
And pretty much, you know, I think one problem where we got into this is that the previous auditor didn't realize that every time they stepped foot in that office, coming around on their monthly or bi-monthly or weekly visits and say, do you need anything? It's automatic charge.
But Beth, it was more than that, because as you recall, any phone call too,
Oh, phone calls.
and it
Well,
was,
some of that,
they
some
were
of that's covered.
repetitive phone calls
Yeah.
for the same.
Same thing over and over, and retraining and retraining and retraining.
Well, I think we need to advertise for a public hearing for the 25,000. That gives us a month to sort through and get accurate. If we want to go 20, 21, 22, in November, we'll know better. But we almost have to start with 25.
Looks like he's got that right there.
Yeah. And if it's not utilized, we'll have a credit going into 13, depending on what we decide to pay. So that's really our only action.
25,000 in the general fund?
So is there a motion officially?
I move we advertise for a public hearing for additional appropriation of 25,000 in the IT budget for Lao Technical Services to be held at our November meeting.
All right.
Second.
Okay, thank you for the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Scott, I just want to make sure that I have this clear though on this telephone.
Mhm.
That is this the way you all are interpreting this sheet that Bill gave you? That if $3,481 is transferred to telephone,
Right.
that he's good till the end of the year?
It says can transfer out of the following line items, just like
Okay.
Steve just did,
Okay, well, and that's what was done.
to telephone.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we should be good on the phone.
right.
Okay.
That's why I read it. Okay. Now, unless these next ones are coming down the line, Greg, should we move all these transfers to our next meeting? Or did we cover them all? Oh. Okay. one for the surveyors. All right? Everybody got that one? Surveyor's office for $450.
And then we're gonna do the health.
Gas.
Do we have any on the health department? Do we have any paperwork, Greg, on the health department?
On the health department, they were gonna transfer some money to cover attorney's fees. We don't have any paper, Greg went to look for that, but was it from the, was she creating a line for, and she's gonna pay it, or she wants to transfer the money?
She was, she thought she had a line for outside professional services, but then she realized in the 2011 or 2012 budget session, you took that line out. You took outside professional services line away. So therefore, she has some money to help us because some of the services that the county attorney performed were directly related to the health department. So I asked them if they had any money to free up, could they help us with that? She said she could, but she didn't know where to put it. Where to, because the outside professional service line was gone. So that's what her request was. I think it was about, is it 1,500?
We don't see the
Okay.
numbers, but I couldn't remember the details.
Right, that's what it was, and she doesn't have a line to put it, to take that money to be paid.
We're displaying, Greg. Okay, we will follow the list here. Health department, everybody's got that?
You know, it doesn't have what we needed.
Doesn't have what we need.
You don't have the one for the
Transfer for attorney fees.
Do you know what the amount was from the department?
She doesn't have it down.
I don't see the form.
Actually, well, it's 1425. 1425.
This is just an FYI.
Got the only one like that, Brad.
Okay, and just as county council, we can put three aside.
Right.
There are three that are just FYI.
Yeah, that's what Brad just said.
Joint dispatch. The health department.
All right. And the plan commission. transfers, and some of them we have to act on, some of them we just, there's for our information. And I can never tell which is which unless they're on the agenda. Like that.
Right after that was called contractual services line. She says, at the October council meeting, I'll make a request to recreate the contractual services line and then move the money into it. So I'll write out a simple request and ask for it to place on the October council agenda. I think it was 1425. I don't know where it was from to that.
If it's in the same series, she can do that. It's just a matter of us having to make that line.
Right.
Well, should we move? Any objections to move on? Let's look at the auditor. We have to act on that one. Transferring $200 from part-time to office supplies, $100 from part-time to postage, $150 from part-time to conference and travel, and $350 from part-time to maintenance and repair. Any discussion? If not, I entertain a motion. Any
Second.
moves we approve? Thank you, Suzanne. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
That, if you notice, that was all part-time money.
All right.
But it's just
Okay, the next one.
observation.
Surveyor's office, $450 repair truck to garage and motor. Reason to pay for gas. Any discussion?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Denny. Is there a second? Second, Suzanne. Thank you. All those in favor?
Oh, that
I'm
was
sorry.
not me.
Oh,
It was
it's
me.
Madonna, sorry.
Madonna.
Okay, my hand was going.
That sounded like me a little bit.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, and Greg, we will hold that health department until next month? Let's do that?
I cannot find a copy. of
Okay,
it.
we'll just,
Not sure it is.
it'll probably be all right, Lauren.
Can we authorize the reopening of the professional outside services line in the health department? The opening of that line, can we do that? Can we authorize that?
I would like that would help, you know, them,
And that's transfer.
then they can transfer into it. Makes sense.
I make a motion that we authorize the health department to utilize, to open and utilize the professional outside services line in the health department budget.
All right, thank you, Suzanne. Is there a second? Any? Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
All opposed? That'll make it easier next month.
What number is that, the series? The 300 or?
30,000.
Three.
Okay, so as long as she has the money in that line, but if there are any others, she has to come in.
Right. It'll be just an FYI for us. Okay, if I'm checking things off right, we're down to minutes. All right. We should have 4 sets of minutes, I think. The first one, August 21st.
I wouldn't mind having time to digest
Those minutes were in last month's packets and were tabled till this month.
I've got a correction on page 2, under resolution 2012-16. The emergency management garage and motor was not 1,800. We reduced that. The original request was 1,800.
When did we reduce that?
it's stated on page 4, it's not. On page 2, do you want what the resolution as it was presented, or do you want the resolution as it was adopted?
Probably what was adopted. All right. You want to change that to 400? Anybody else have any corrections or notice anything?
We did code and officer while we talked about with that gadget, right?
Yeah. Well, we thought about it for a while.
Yeah. Everything during his first couple days. I make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted for August 21st.
Thank you, Beth. Is there a
With that
second?
correction.
With that correction, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Kenny. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? September 12th. What's the next one? September 12th. This was pertaining to our budget. Not much there. Anybody make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from September 12th.
Thank you, Suzanne. Is there a second? Vicki, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? September 18th. We reviewed non-binding agreements. Had an update from Maximus. Having the jail president.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted for September 18th.
All right, thanks, Beth.
Second.
Second, Susanna. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we have October 10th and 11th budget workshop.
While we're on that last set of minutes on September 18th, on page 4, we talked about the transfer of $1,000 for the courthouse. Has that happened, janitor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I have a schedule for days. Jane is going to be working 15 days to cover for 3 weeks of vacation days spread out through November and December for Ann Cox while she's on vacation.
All right, we need, I will make a motion on the minutes for our 2 budget workshop days.
I'm wondering if maybe we should just take a little time to review the numbers with our budgets. I make a motion to table the October 10th and 11th meeting minutes.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Probably a good idea.
And then we'll make those adjustments we've made, everything should come in next year.
We still have several budgets that we need to adopt.
Right.
Yeah.
We have those? It's been very quiet, no cell phones, no one's talking. Kind of different.
Okay, can we read them one to one? Okay. Surveyor corner perpetuation, $1,000. Reassessment, Fund 124, which I think is what, 1188 now or something like that, with the new state numbers. We adopted $248,350. Rainy day, 0. Capitals, cumulative capital development, $206,216. Juvenile probation is 0. Adult probation, $33,317. Pretrial diversion, $22,330. Economic development income tax, 0. $512,857. Guardian ad litem, $3,300. The highway department, and that included raises that we adjusted in there for $600. $1,919,739. Local road and street, $160,100. Hume Bridge. We don't need to do that one. It's our levy fund. Council's our levy fund, we've done that. We've done that. Reassessment, we've done that. That catch it. Well, let's make sure I read it right now. Okay, we gotta look at the highlight. A little higher than what was advertised on it. Hume Bridge, we did that. Health, we did. 4D, we did. This 4D would be, we did. And it would be 0. The statewide 911 is $227,500. And then we have a new budget this year, which is Catch It. And what we did on that, we took pretty much the blunt of the commissioner's budget and all of the council budget, except for what we just now have created within the general fund in 61 location, and put that within our Catch It budget. The state this year required that our Catch It revenues have to be shown as to where they're applied in your budget. So even though there's still general fund money that we always counted on, Now they're separated out, so we felt it was easier to take those two budgets almost entirely. We didn't take the aid to retarded citizens, and there was another one. Go on. Yeah, the mental health. The mental health, those two get adjusted by the state, so we left those within the general fund. So that number is $1,097,565.
And I'd like to make one comment on the cash fund. And I'd like Greg to ask the state if it would be okay to leave December's revenue in the CAGIT fund so that the fund starts out with an operating balance.
Family highway.
Well, I was looking at the ambulance.
What were you looking for, Bill?
The ambulance.
It's in the commissioners. isn't it?
Ambulance service is in the
That's right. That's right.
We can only adopt for the county highway, the advertised budget is $1,897,260. So that's the maximum that we can adopt.
So we'll just have to make those adjustments. I'm sure he's got it, because I know we had it all when we left the tables, everything. So there may just be something that he's got to adjust on. So I make a motion that we approve those outside budgets as presented.
All right, thank you, Beth.
Second.
Susan, you got it? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any other new business need to discuss? If not, I'll entertain motions to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Thank you very much. We're adjourned. Yeah. I'll wait for you.
Did you catch all that?
Sign.